I look at this as you've got the person who's grieving and you've got the support system around the grieving person. And I feel like when I put myself in the shoes of the support system and you say just show up, I guess my question, yeah, going to this market would be good, but what else does showing up look like? Because is it just sitting with them as they're crying? Is it sending them, my thing would be to go to humor and try to send them something funny and like try to lighten their day. But I don't know. But I think a lot of us feel like we don't want to be disrespectful to the person that's grieving. So when you say show up, I'd love to unpack that a little bit. Like, what does showing up look like? Is it just a text saying, I love you, I'm here, I'm supporting you? It can be all those things, I'm thinking.
Absolutely. And your relationship will dictate that, right? So
Yeah.
if you and I are best friends, then you and I have access to, deeper layers of each other's heart. And I more so know the things that you may need in that moment. It could be, let's say I'm giving you space and now it's been a little too long and now I'm a little worried about you. My best friend did this with me. I'm going to text you and be like, hey, we don't need to talk, but I need you to just send me an emoji. Just send me something. Let me know that you're okay. I'm worried about you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And she just like grabbed me out of my hole. And
Yes.
it could also be that I need to brainstorm. So sometimes, look, if you're me, this is what you'll do. And maybe you do this too, but I'm the person that's going to come in with all the advice in the world. That's why I wrote the damn book.
Yeah. Yep.
You should do this and you should do that. Let me turn you on to this doctor. Let me turn you on to that modality. And let me help you with this. Blah, 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 right. And so sometimes our people may not want to be coached. They may not want any of that information. And so what I say is, do you want to brainstorm or do you want me to just listen?
Oh, give them the option. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you want to brainstorm, I'm your girl.
Yeah.
Right? I got to figure out how to listen more and more. And I think that is the human path.
Yeah. And what I want to do is I go back to like, let me make you laugh. Let me find a way to pull you out. And then you won't be in that sadness anymore. But what I've learned about grief for my own self is that it's really important. And like you're saying, it's so important to sit there. And to feel it. And I love this idea about being curious about it, which takes me to the person who's grieving. I think if we address grief from this idea that society doesn't know what to do with it, and we have lots of different forms of grief. We have like the loss of a loved one. We have the loss of an identity. We have, a lot of loss. How can we express to somebody, hey, I am just in grief today? And maybe we just say it like that. But how do we express like, I'm not myself today. I need you just to honor that I am not myself, because I don't feel like our society it understands that.
You just did it. Can you imagine if more of us did exactly what you just did?
Just that I'm not myself.
I'm not myself today. How are you? I actually am not feeling like myself today. I'm going through a tough time. Thank you so much for asking. I might not even want to talk about it, but you know what else I really don't want to do? I don't want to have to make you feel comfortable.
Ah, yes, that's it. Oh, that's it. So true. And then that's what those of us that are helpers want to do, right? It's like, this is so me. I will say, I'm not myself to my people closest to me. And then they're all, especially my husband, he's like, well, what's wrong? Let me try to fix it for you. And then I'm like, well, shoot, I now have made you uncomfortable. So let me go fix you. And the next thing you know, I'm out of the grief moment and back into the fixer helper moment.
Yeah. And we all do that. And here's the thing. I want to make sure we touch on I don't want anyone to feel like they have to wallow in this emotion. So I'm saying this to you because I'm 52 and I forget everything that I want to say sometimes. And so you're going to help me with my hormones.
Yes, we're going to fix that problem.
Yeah, you're going to help me with that. But where I wanted to go was this idea of fixing you as a fixer, as a helper, as a caregiver, as somebody who always wants to be in a state of helping people feel good. I think many of us relate to that. The best thing that you can do for yourself, and I think other people, at least this is what I'm exploring, is to be yourself and to be honest. Because I feel like in that honesty, now again, this isn't dumping, this isn't projecting, this isn't, endlessly venting and bringing the energy down and the oxygen out of the room. But through our honesty, what do we create? We create connection. And if we know, based on all of the research that we're reading right now, we're living in an epidemic of loneliness.
Yeah, we are.
And that's for all the reasons that we are reading about. Certainly technology helps to create that. But I think one of the biggest reasons why we're living in an epidemic of loneliness is because we're lying more often than being truthful.
Oh, I think you're right.
Right. And so when somebody says, "How are you?" I will always say, "Fine." It's my knee jerk.
Yes. Me too.
I did this in a staff meeting the other day. We were talking about, we were writing, book campaigns, you're writing lots of emails and you're telling lots of stories. And I was writing about pet loss because I think it's one topic that's often overlooked. And the loss of a pet is profound.
Profound.
Right? And yet a lot of people feel shame around it. They feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be grieving this much. No, that's not true. We just lived in a messed up society that would say your pet isn't as important. Not true. Right?
Right.
So we're writing about this, and we're writing about one of my recent losses with my sweet dog. And I started to cry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in the middle of this team meeting. And I just said, "Sorry, guys, I'm feeling really emotional and a bit sad right now." And instead of saying, or trying to fix the energy, I just said, "Thank you for holding the space for me."
Ah, that's a great line. That is a great line. Yeah. And then they probably loved you even more. And they're probably like, "Can I work for you for the rest of my life?" That's what I'm thinking, because there is something about when we show up authentically and authentically sad or messy or whatever we want to call it, that it gives them permission that they can do the same. And I think that the way you said that was not like you were trying to pull the oxygen out of the room. You were trying to just say, "This is where I am. Thank you for being in this space with me." I think that's an incredibly mature way to do it. So, and how did they respond? I'm just curious. Were they?
They were great. I mean, they're used to that. This is what we do. You know what I mean? So everybody just took a beat, and I just sat with my emotion, and probably no more than like 30 seconds, honestly. And then I said, "Okay." And then they said, "We so appreciate you. And thank you so much for allowing that." And then we went back to marketing copy.
Yeah, right. And then you were off and running in your workaholic,
Yeah.
workaholic challenge.
Exactly.
Addiction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you feel like there are two paths you can take with grief? You can kind of brush yourself off and power forward and not feel it. And then there's the path where you actually really honor it and feel it. Do you feel like if you feel it, and this is the way my brain is thinking, and I know it may not, people listening, you might even think like that's not the goal, but if I feel it, will I get through it quicker?
It's beautiful. That's a great question. I love how ambitious you are.
I'm like, because if I know I'm going to get through it faster, then I'll sit my ass down and I will feel it. I will cry it. I will deal with it if I know it's going to end. Otherwise, I'm going to do option B, where I ignore it and I turn away.
Well, so let's just talk about something that's probably not very exciting to hear. But if we go back to the idea that we can't amputate any of our emotions and expect to be whole, then there are going to be losses in our life where we may actually not totally heal from that loss. And there's a beautiful saying by Carl Jung, and he talks about how we orbit through certain themes in our life. And with each orbit, we pass a new level of meaning, understanding, growth, wisdom. And from where I stand, that mechanism of orbiting is the mechanism of our healing.
I love that.
You can kick the can down the road as long as you want, but I think the invitation is to evolve and to evolve our consciousness. And if we block that energy, or if we try to rush that energy because we want to get to some finish line, it's not going to work, right? And so we often think that if we allow that feeling, it's going to take us under, and it actually may for a minute, but each time we allow it, we feel more and more relief, more and more peace, more and more understanding, just like that orbiting,
Yeah.
And so we can put it off if we want to, but the very notion of putting it off is the idea that blocking my energy is somehow good for my well-being.
Yeah, right.
And so I've always believed this because, as you know, I live with stage 4 cancer and I have 24 tumors in my body that have been there for 20 years. And back in the early chapters of my wellness journey, I was so determined to cure myself, Mindy, because I said, well, if Western medicine can't do it, then I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fight. I'm like, don't tell me I have to live with this for the rest of my life. I'll show you, and I have to say that energy is so catalyzing. It's so powerful. I probably wouldn't be as healthy as I am today. I wouldn't have built the community that I've built today if I wasn't wildly inspired to take back my health and take back my power.
Yep.
This is one of the reasons you and I are such kindred spirits, is because a certain paradigm gets set by our culture and we say, actually, there's a different way and we're going to find it and follow it.
Oh my God, I got chills.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but after a while, Mindy, even though I was feeling better and my doctors were like, yeah, listen, you're doing great. I mean, it's just kind of hanging out. It's stable. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Good on you. But I had this idea in my mind that if I wasn't cured, it wasn't good enough. And so I put a ton of pressure on myself, which creates more inflammation, more sense of like all of the emotions of I'm not good enough, I'm failing. If I can't get rid of this, then my life is on hold.
Yeah.
Well, I might live my entire life with stage 4 cancer and it might be long and prosperous and into my 90s. I certainly don't want to waste that time.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I came to was this understanding that has been my guiding light on my wellness journey, which is health isn't the absence of disease. It's the presence of vitality.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. And it's vitality being stronger than disease. Like it's like, if you look at like a ratio, it's more vitality than disease.
Yeah. You're feeling good in your body. You've got energy. You're feeling, your mental well-being is cared for. And on a whole, you're feeling pretty good. It doesn't mean you're not going to have down days. It doesn't mean you're not going to have rage. It doesn't mean you're not going to have all of the colors of the rainbow that make up you. But more often than not, you can say, you know what? I feel very vibrant.
Yeah.